All right, Fresh, let's go to our fan vote game of the week here. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you do not already follow us on the X, formerly known as Twitter, make sure you follow us on social media there as Fresh throws up the X sign there. We, every single week, we let you decide on what game we should add to our preview each and every week. This week, winning by a wide margin, the Ohio State Buckeyes traveling to Camp Randall Stadium and the Wisconsin Badgers. At time of record, this game, Ohio State is a 14.5 point road favorite. Over under set at 43.5. Which one of these two things is not like the other? Kind of one or the other of those is coming in. I don't think I'm going to have a hard time believing both will come in there. So, Fresh, Buckeyes coming off of a huge win. This could be a possible letdown game for them. Camp Randall, it's at nighttime. Not an easy place to go into. I know Wisconsin's dealing with stuff, but Luke Fickell is their head coach, and he will have these boys ready to play against his alma mater. Fresh, I'll turn it over to you. What you got for Ohio State, Wisconsin?
Well, I basically think Vegas is saying Ohio State's going to win 24-0 or something like that, where the Badgers are scoring. That Buckeye defense, we already knew they were really good coming into it, and what they did to the rushing attack and Drew Allar and that Penn State offense, they annihilated them. There was nothing that Penn State could do, and I think Vegas really loves that Buckeye defense. They're saying that they have no faith in the Badgers, mainly because Mordecai's knocked out, and Braden Locke, he showed a lot of effort, a lot of moxie last week, leading that nice little comeback, organizing some drives against Illinois. But the Illinois defense is not the Ohio State defense. I think we've also still been waiting for the air raid offense there for the Badgers to take off, and it's looked a little clunky. It's year one, but it hasn't been as fluid as everyone expected. And Phil Longo coming from North Carolina, people are like, well, Sam Howell did it, Drake May did it. Why can't the Badgers offense, go 4 wide and chuck it around? It's been a slow start, but Braylon Allen is still the cog for the Badgers running the football. And we saw all season long, if he gets involved and gets going, it opens up the passing game, not from what maybe an air raid perspective, but it gives them a little more flexibility in that offense. That's what the Badgers need to see some of that on Saturday night. They need to see this offense take it to the next level, because in any situation of pulling off an upset, whether you're on the road or at home, you've got to score touchdowns and you cannot kick field goals. That means in the red zone, you've got to find ways, and maybe occasionally you've got to hit a 50-yard or 60-yard touchdown. You got to break a big one, shorten the time, but also hit a big touchdown, sort of shock the system of the opponent. If Wisconsin can get maybe one or two of those in the football game, a couple of big plays, they'll be in good shape. But this Buckeye team, unless they're extremely hungover, I think they found that they showed their identity of who they are. They are going to play great defense. McCord's going to put them in great situations, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to get 9-10 receptions, 100+ yards, and a touchdown. They don't have to win sexy. They don't have to win 60-0. They just need to come out there and get the business done on the road against Wisconsin and keep moving forward. And this could be, a Big Ten title game preview. Who knows what's going to come out of the Big Ten West? But you've got to continue to keep taking care of business. I think what the events this past week, coming out with the whole Michigan stuff, is adding fuel in that maybe, hey, they were stealing our signs allegedly. We've got to get going. We've got to make sure we have a destiny set, undefeated up in Ann Arbor. Don't let anything get in our way. I think that might have give a little extra recharge, knowing that they have some extra motivation there, or maybe stuff, quote unquote, maybe was stolen from the past 2 years, and they have a little anger behind them, and they have a mission to keep moving forward. Anything you can do to motivate your football team coming off a big win to keep focus going forward, I think is what you need to pull out right now. And Ryan Day has a lot right now he can use as material. So Buckeyes have a focus. It's also a nice little win. You go into Madison, people start saying, yeah, you went into Iowa, you went into Madison. Like, there are wins that the opponent might not matter, but the venue and the logo matter a little bit more in any kind of conference you go to. Going to Madison at night, it's not a noon kickoff, getting a W would reflect with the voters, with the committee coming up in their first, week from now, a week from now, the first playoff poll is going to come out. Chance to really add to that of making a shock and awe moment. If they have a chance to score an extra touchdown, I got a feeling Ryan Day is going to do that because they want to add that extra impact of, hey, remember what we just did last night? We beat Penn State the week before. You should be ranking us much higher than what you have right now. Keep bumping us up. We're going to put it on. And I think that's where you might see some other teams across the spectrum, if they're in that contention, instead of shutting it down, maybe put the extra touchdown there just for that initial surge right before the first pull. But the Badgers have a chance to pull off an upset. They're going to have to be flawless. They have to come out and score touchdowns, and they've got to seize any opportunities. If you get a turnover, if you punch that ball out, you've got to score a touchdown. Field goals won't get it done. McCord, just protect the ball. There's been two chances so far in the season, one versus Notre Dame, one versus Penn State, where on the final drive, the Notre Dame player dropped the interception, and then the fumble was called back due to holding call. The holding call was legit, but you've had turnovers that you've gotten away with that should have been turnovers that weren't. Will you make that mistake in a road game? That could be costly. You've got to learn how to protect the football. Sometimes maybe ball won't bounce your way. You can't afford to have those losses. A loss to Wisconsin would be a bad loss for this football team. So you just got to go in there, manage yourself, hit your receivers, trust your offense, and defense for Ohio State. Do what you do, and you'll come out unscathed. If you guys overlook the Badgers, you could be in for a rough night in Madison. I have the Buckeyes covering. I take the under. I just trust the Buckeyes defense too much for the Badgers to score.
Fresh. This is a fascinating one to me because if Ohio State goes into Madison and loses this football game, all of the goodwill that you built up in your big win against Penn State is now out the window. You had a dominant defensive performance against the Nittany Lions. If you can go into, like you said, going into Madison and having that same type of defensive performance, the thing that people don't talk about, everyone wants to talk about certain things from that Penn State game, but no one wants to talk about how the Buckeye defense shut down Allen and Singleton in that game. If you can go into Madison and do the same thing to Braylon Allen, you deserve a lot of respect. Braylon Allen's averaging 5.9 yards a carry right now. He's got 8 touchdowns. He is the Wisconsin offense. Right. Braden Locke, I like the kid. But he's not Mordecai, and even Mordecai, we weren't seeing the same Mordecai that we saw at SMU the last couple of years. Something's off with that kid. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's scheme. I don't know if it's just the cold weather from being in Texas versus being in Wisconsin. I don't know what it is. But if you can go into Camp Randall and you can shut down the running attack of the Badgers, because Wisconsin's going to be able to run the football just like they always can. If you can do that, then this defense is truly like on a mission. Because you take a look at their next couple of games, and this was one of the games like we talked early in the season about a couple games stretch there for Ohio State. We talked about Maryland, talked about Penn State, we talked about this Wisconsin game. You get through this game here, you're talking Rutgers. Rutgers is better, but they're still Rutgers. You're talking Minnesota. You're talking the program that is Michigan State, the shell of a program there, and you're moving towards that final matchup at the end of the year, the game that really matters to Ohio State fans, and you're on this mission there. For Ohio State, for me, it's making sure you're healthy. It's making sure that Travion Henderson is getting the rest he needs to. Are you going to need him in this game? Chip Trainum and Mayan Williams have done a very nice job for him. Travion Henderson is the more explosive running back out of the three, but if he needs another week, then so be it. Let the other two guys cook. Then you talk about Emeka Egbuka. You take a look at him. Is he going to be good for this game? I want this team to be fully healthy going into the end to that last part of the season. This team is poised to make a lot of noise. This is a very good team. They say, offense sells tickets, but defense wins championships. This is a team that really is kind of looking at one of the best comparisons I've heard about this Ohio State team is not to the 2015 team that won the first college football playoff. The best comparison I heard was the 2002 Ohio State national title team. Kyle McCord, very similar to Craig Krenzel. not super sexy, doesn't like throw for 300 yards, but doesn't completely make mistakes. You take a look at that season right there. Michael Jenkins was the leading receiver. Yes, Marvin Harrison is outperforming Michael Jenkins by a huge wide margin. But what I'm saying is this team is really a kind of a throwback to Jim Tressel. And the thing that I love about it is that showing that Ryan Day can do a different type of team. We've gotten so used to Ryan Day Buckeye teams being this offensive juggernaut, and defense has kind of been secondary to them. The 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 script has been flipped. This is a defense-led team that puts their offense in great positions to win. Give me Ohio State in this game. I hate 14.5 going into Camp Randall. I respect Wisconsin way too much. So I would actually take Wisconsin. Ohio State's going to win the game, but give me Wisconsin's going to keep it closer than people will think just because they're on the road. They'll have respect for it. That place will be rocking. It always is rocking against Ohio State. So give me Wisconsin and the points, Ohio State to win. And I'm actually going to take the over of the 43.5. I think Wisconsin's going to score a few more points than people will give them credit for. Ohio State's going to win on a little bit more of a shootout. So I'm going to say something along the lines of like a 31-17 game, 31-21 type of game, about a 10-point win for Ohio State.
I mean, I think it's just give us a game at night. If it's a blowout, people are going to bed early, and they'll miss out on the Pac-12 after dark later.
Right. And we don't want that to happen at all. All right, Fresh.